Festa is we thing. Come for Carry Festa 15 in Barbados. Book your stay now at visitbarbados.org/Carry Festa.
That's the sound of your animals. Strong, healthy, and delivering yields you love. That didn't just happen. It began with you feeding them only the best. East Caribbean Feeds. Rest assured, we only produce your feeds with premium ingredients. No hormones, no animal byproducts. Just everything your animal needs for maximum nutrition. Because your animals deserve only the best. East Caribbean Feeds from Maximum Nutrition.
ECGC has slashed feed prices by 8 to 10%. Check your local supplier for more details. ECGC, providers of feed for maximum nutrition.
WEFM is SVG.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
All right, and we are back with you for another segment of our Activated Mornings program here on WEFM. For those in need of a time check, it is 8:24. All right, so I know that when we ended that last discussion in terms of the woman who was showing compassion towards her abuser, there were a few persons who were trying to call. So if you want to call at this time, you can do so before we quickly before we head into another topic. All right. So just going to allow those persons who were trying to call, if you wish to lend your voice or lend your thoughts to that particular discussion, you can call now. Okay. All right. Morning, Joshua.
Hi, it's me again. Now, I want to make this quite clear. I am not a perfect person. I have so many flaws, man. You won't believe it. What I think is lacking is a lack of counseling. And when I say counseling, I don't mean going to one of them people that stand up in the pulpit on Sundays, flashing the jewelry and everything. I'm talking about serious down-to-earth counseling, deep down inside. As everybody knows, this is my second marriage. And the pastor that married us, the church that I was going to, they wouldn't marry me because I am a divorcee and I was committing a sin. But the pastor that agreed to marry us said, listen, I'm only going to marry you guys if you go through my period of counseling. About 2 months later, when that guy was finished with us, I knew I wanted to marry Yulan. He looked at everything, how you squeeze the toothpaste, how you hang the toilet roll, how you drink a cup of tea, every single thing. And I, being cocky, I said, why is all of this important?
Hold on,
said,
hold on.
man.
1 second, hold on. He looked at it. How did he get to look at it? He lived in?
No, he gave us homework.
Okay.
Counseling, every single thing. So I got cocky. I said, why is all of this important? He said, young man, listen to me. When you get married to this angel, when you come from work and you kick your boots off and leave it on the floor, that's not a big issue. But you're going to use that little thing to start a fight. So you're going to fix that now. And I shared this on your show before. I remember the first time Yolande came up to my apartment. I wasn't untidy, but men are normally sloppy. And she was vacuuming. She picked up my boots, she vacuumed, she put it back down. She picked up her pants, she vacuumed and I said, I look at her, I asked, what are you doing? She said, I'm vacuuming. I said, no, you're not. She said, I'm vacuuming. I said, but this stuff is still on the floor. Ladies, my wife, she was my wife then. Yolande looked at me and I saw the fire coming out of her eyes. She said, let's get one thing straight. If we ever get married I am not your servant now. I'm not going to be a servant then. 40 years later, ladies, I'm still sloppy. And my wife would still vacuum and she would pick up the stuff. She wouldn't put it back on the floor, but she would simply dump it in the trash. That's my wife. But this is something that I knew. I expected this. So don't wait until you get married thinking that things would change. It won't change. It's only going to get worse. And my family is so crazy. When I say family, I mean my son and my wife. We are a dysfunctional family. If you come to our house, you think we're crazy because, like last night, for example, man, we were poking at each other. We were having so much fun. And I'd go out with this. When we go out together, I don't drive. My wife and son put me in the back seat. And 2 days ago, we stopped and I got out of the car and I walked away. My son, like 6'4", Dad, aren't you forgetting something? So I looked back at him. I asked, "What's your problem?" So he pointed. He said, Your wife is still sitting in the car." I looked at him and I asked, "So?" He said, "So aren't you going to open the door for her?" I said, "You standing there, why don't you open it?" Guess what my son said?
He's not her husband.
He did not in those words, but that's what he said. He said, "Dad, she is your wife." So what made him say that? Because he's seen me do it. And these are things that, you learn. As I said, I'm not perfect, but I've had 40 years in this. If I was me, like if I was my wife, I honestly could not live with me because I'm not an easy person to live with. But we learn to live through it because we had that counseling. And that is what is lacking in, not just in St. Vincent, but worldwide. I hope this would help some way, somehow, because I'm very passionate about, 40-something years, I still love my wife sometimes even more than I did on day one. Whenever she drives me up the wall, which is every day, every single day, this woman drives me crazy. But I look at her and I remember when I was chasing after her. I remember the day I fell in love with her. And that makes things easier for me. So have a great day, ladies. And I'm going off with this. That's all I'm going off with.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Thanks, Joshua. All righty. So, yeah. Any thoughts with regards to what Joshua said?
Nah.
All right. So let's head into this topic. And I'm talking to the fellas specifically. And when you ask that, start to hear me laughing, it's up to mischief, right? All right. So, fellas, let me clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. You know that song?
Mm-hmm.
You know it?
Yeah.
John 14. Oh, gosh.
Oh, no, wrong song.
All right. So, we're asking the question: do you think to break the stigma of homophobia, should young men know at least one gay man?
Raji, we're inviting you in the studio to discuss this topic with us.
This is what we need to
We need
have
a male
Man,
perspective.
yeah,
Come in, Raji. Special invitation to be on the Activated Morning Show.
All right, so we're asking the question: to break the stigma of homophobia, should men know at least one gay man? All right, and if y'all think I am the one being instruction by proposing this, no, these words did not come from my mouth. Guess whose mouth they came from? Someone who you all love, you respect, you admire. One of those persons who a lot of the things that they say you might tend to be in agreement with. So I want to know if at this time, if you're in agreement. So the words came from Obama himself, President Obama. All right. Well, they still say president for life, but it's okay. To be exact, would be former President Obama, but right. So Obama urges young men to befriend gay people. So this is an article on from the 20th of July. So Obama just told the world that boys need gay men in their lives. You can probably imagine his mentions are in shambles, and some of the loudest voices are black men, because they tend to think of black men as being very homophobic. All right, so there we go. So on July 16, the former president gave his explosive take alongside his wife of 33 years, Michelle Obama, during an episode of the IMO with Michelle Obama and Craig Robinson, which is actually her brother. But it wasn't the family banter that had people talking. It was what he claimed might elevate young men or elevate young boys to be better men. That's one of the things that I think a lot of the time boys need. Not just exposure to one dad. No matter how good the dad is, he can be everything. That boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad, right? One of the most valuable things I've learned as a guy was I had a gay professor in college at the time when openly gay folks were still not allowed, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. He says, you need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or what have you, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this. All right. So it's a lot more that was said, but that's just the gist of it. All right. And of course, Black men have called him out. All right. So do you think, as fellas in particular, that in order for us to break the stigma of homophobia, that men should be exposed to, or at least know one gay person? All right. So Dianna, what are your thoughts?
Boy, I would not say that they have to have a gay man in their life in order for them to break the stigma. I kind of get what he is saying when he's talking about having one as a friend. It would sort of help with the perspective, because to have somebody who is actually from that particular community would probably be best for you to learn about that community so that you don't behave in a certain way. But I'm not sure if you have to have a gay friend in order for you to do that. You know,
I think what I'm concerned with is that many persons are interpreting it as, okay, so I have to be fully accepting of what of the gay, of who gays are, right? I try to find the best words to say this. I don't think that you necessarily have to wholeheartedly accept something in order for you to at least be civil towards somebody who engages in such activity, right? And I think, so I always remember the first time that I was exposed to like openly gay persons was in Canawan, because I think at least one of them was a manager. So he would show open displays of affection towards the person who he was involved with at the resort. Now, as a how old was I? I think I was 21. As a 21-year-old living here in SVJ, I hadn't traveled, I hadn't gone anywhere else at that time. Seeing this on the resort was kind of weird. It kind of joked me as in, you know of it, but I've never seen it for myself. I've never seen two men holding hands. I've never seen men kissing. I've never seen any of that, right? So it was a little bit of an eye-opener, but having seen it, after a while, I was just like, oh, okay, whatever, right? Now, it's not to say that I am going to say to embrace let's say persons wanting to become gays, right? If you choose to, that really and truly to me is your personal decision. But am I necessarily going to run down a man because that he has chosen this what's the best words for this word? This path, or some persons say they were born like that, they have chosen to go down this road. I would not drag a man for that, right? And this is why for me, I can understand where Obama is coming from, because if you have that exposure, you are not going to be as
ignorant for one,
ignorant, or you're not going to be necessarily caught off guard or find it so annoying or whatever the words are. Words are failing me this morning, but you will not be as, well, quote unquote, triggered in a sense when you see this happening. And I know that in the Caribbean, men are generally, they express their thoughts towards homophobia.
Yeah.
They would say, you'd see them walking on the road, bun this and bun that. We know the words that follow afterwards, right? But when they go overseas, they won't dare say anything.
Correct.
Right? You won't dare say anything because it's always in your face. Right? It's always in their face. And
it's a different land too. You might get a lawsuit.
Right. So I am curious to know how the men feel about this. Hi, Carla. Good morning.
No, we didn't. The pause. As soon as I was going, then it
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I really want to know what the fellas think. I want to know, guys, because I feel like you can use Google, you can use whatever other media outlet, or probably even talk to persons that you know in order to have an understanding of gay people so that you don't behave in the way that you behave. And I quite frankly, I am the way that Caribbean men would behave when a gay man passes, I wish y'all would behave like that when the rapists pass. But y'all just be quiet.
Well, I suppose because you can't always tell who's the rapist.
They doesn't know about
this, no? Yeah.
And that's a different protection.
Yeah. And you know, there are some.
Okay, so there's the.
Oh. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm so desperate to get in to respond to this. Now, Obama, you know, a lot of people like me would be surprised because they don't quite get it, what Obama means. And some people could, like I hear you saying you're thinking what Obama is getting at and so on. But we're born in different societies. And I know in St. Vincent and Grenadines, according to your family circumstances, some people got introduced into this homosexuality thing and so on from very early, right? And I could understand why, because you may have you had somebody around and nobody took note that would have been involved in this kind of thing. I just can't stand it. And that's why I'm so desperate. I just can't stand it.
Let me ask you a question, right? So
no,
I guess you
stop me there. Go ahead. Quick.
So I suppose that you can't stand it from a religious aspect, right? But have you ever come? It's not religious.
It's common sense. How does a man feel making love to another man? Could you answer that?
I wouldn't know because I'm number one, not a man. So. Yeah,
well,
but
that's what I'm telling you.
But no, so Dave, no.
All the gay men, I know those who go down that road, they won't like to hear Dave Robertson that. So I can't talk. I can't say how I feel.
No, it's okay. We are encouraging you to talk and to say how you feel. But I have a question for you. Have you ever in your lifetime encountered a gay person?
Yeah, man. Right.
Okay, so yes. Okay, so hold on. Right. So you're saying yes to it. Has that gay person ever sort of try to groom you, or have they ever thrown talks your way to encourage you to have they ever thrown the spot there? Have they ever done that?
One name who was high up in society who tried that with me, you know.
Okay, so Dave,
we're so afraid to talk. Dave Robertson, afraid to talk.
No, we're not getting down that road, Dave. We haven't. We just try to have an understanding of this, right? Because Dianna, go ahead. Let me hear.
I forget what I was going to ask you.
Okay, so my question to you, Dave, right, is that you have had encounter with a gay person, but okay, so he has thrown you.
I have not had encounter.
You have met.
I've had men bringing the conversation in a nice way and all of that.
Okay, but you didn't know anybody. You didn't know anybody who was gay who did not try to make an advance towards you, who was just going about the business, but you just know them to be gay.
Well, yes, based on what people say.
Based on what people say? Okay. The point that I'm trying to get at, Dave, is that you have come across an individual who is gay, right? This person did not influence you to become gay. This person, I'm sure that you treated this person in a civil manner. So what is the issue? As long as they're not grooming you, as long as they're not making an advancement towards you, then what really truly is the issue?
Well, you don't see the issue. I see an issue there.
And that's what I'm asking. What is it?
Dave, let me ask you this. If you found out a couple of guys that you hang out with are rapists, would you stop hanging out with them?
They're what? Rapists?
Rapists.
Oh, of course. Of course. I would stop hanging. You see, people don't trust or understand people's personal feelings, you know. This is a problem we have there. I have come across people who believe that what they believe is in, that they should just get others to follow them.
But that is what
Pray-
no
I
that
thank
but
God
that
for
is the
making-
real. You said if you're a Christian, Dave, that's what Christianity is, and just because I believe it, I'm supposed to get you to follow it too. And you also want people to follow Christianity, so you can't really make that point because then you would have to apply it to Christianity as well.
You still there, Dave? Hello? All right, it seems like he's gone.
Yeah.
All right, so when it comes to this topic, I know that is a bit of a touchy one, especially for the religious people. And already we seeing somebody commenting on the live, right? But to me, as long as the person isn't grooming, as long as the person isn't making an advancement, then I understand where Obama is coming from.
Yes,
Does
yes,
Dave?
yes.
All right. Hi, Dave.
Yes, I'm back. I don't know what happened there just now, but maybe I'm too anxious to answer and to speak my mind. Why do people try to rubbish or try to bring something else? I was making a point. I have come to realize there's some people, when they say certain things, if you don't believe them, right? They have all kind of things, I just can't tolerate that. I know myself, I am aware. They're giving in St. Vincent and Grenadines for a long time now. Well, in my growing up days, and you actually question but how does Christianity come in? I mean, was it said that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of that? Those twin cities, Sodom and Gomorrah,
they were destroyed for various reasons.
Yeah, but was it for good reasons? Hello? Was it for good reasons they were destroyed?
My definition of good and bad may not be your definition of good and bad. Because I don't feel like we believe in the same things.
Well, yeah,
but according to the Bible and to Christians, it was destroyed for bad things because of bad things.
Well, that's a simple question I asked you just now there. But but I
have to give you my version. You understand?
Yeah,
but
you
go
come
ahead.
With your version. You come with your version. So that's the confusion that we have to face up to in the world. Huh? Because I know a gay man could be very intense and talk to you. He convince you, right? I'm not gay man, gay woman too.
I don't,
right?
Dave, I will say it after. You go ahead.
All right. I think we actually need to wrap this up because I am not sure what we're supposed to have quotes at this time. So I'm not quite sure what is happening. So if there's anything, Dave, we will pick this up at
9:20.
Let me say
at 9:20. All right, Dave. Okay, yeah, I know that you are totally opposed. You've expressed your thoughts numerous times. All right, we will pick it up. We will pick it, Dave. We will pick this back up around 9:20. All right.
Before I go, I just want to say I'm totally against that. Thank you.
All right, Dave. All right, and with that, we are heading on out of this talk segment, and we are going to be hopping directly into our quotes desk for today.